The invitation had been a formality, a thin white card with my name in raised lettering, sent to my mother's address because that was the one on file from years ago. I hadn't expected them to come. I hadn't known if I wanted them to. The house was full of people I barely knew. Business associates, investors, the careful architecture of a life I had built from nothing. I stood near the bar, holding a glass I wasn't drinking from, watching the door the way you watch a wound that hasn't healed properly. They walked in at 80:47. I remember because I looked at the clock on the mantel afterward, as if time itself had become something I needed to measure. My mother first, her eyes sweeping the room with the quick assessment I knew too well. My sister behind her, hair different, dress expensive, face arranged into pleasant expectation, and behind them him, older, softer around the edges, still with that way of standing slightly apart, as if he was already calculating his exit. I didn't move. They didn't see me. The room was too full, and I had positioned myself in the shadows near the terrace. So I watched them do what they had always done, orient themselves toward whoever mattered most in a room. Their eyes found my husband. He was standing by the far windows, talking to a woman from the state legislature. His jacket was off. Sleeves rolled once the way he did when he was comfortable. Someone had just said something that made him laugh, that quiet laugh that had taken me years to learn how to earn. I saw my mother's posture change, a small straightening, the recalibration of a person who had spent her whole life ranking others by usefulness. My sister touched her arm, whispered something. My mother shook her head once barely. They didn't know yet. They thought he was someone else, someone important, someone worth approaching. And then my husband looked up from his conversation and found me across the room, not searching. Just a glance, the way we did in crowded spaces. A check-in, he nodded just once and returned to his conversation. My mother followed his gaze. Found me standing in the dark. I have replayed that moment 100 times. The way her face did nothing for a long second. Then the slow turning back to my sister, the murmured words I couldn't hear. My sister's head swiveling toward me, then back to my husband, then to me again. Him standing beside them now, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. They had to cross the room. That was the geometry of it now. The room was mine. The house was mine. The man by the window was mine. And they had to walk through all of it to reach me. My mother arrived first. "You look well," she said. "I am." Her eyes flicked toward my husband. "Who is that? The man you were just—" "My husband." The silence that followed was the kind you could fall into. My sister had caught up, standing just behind our mother's shoulder, him lingering at the edge, not quite part of their group anymore. "Your husband?" My mother repeated. She had questions. I could see them forming, the calculations behind her eyes. What does he do? How did you meet? How did we not know? But she didn't ask any of them, because we both knew the answer to the last one. My sister spoke instead. "He looks familiar. Have we—" "No," I said. "You haven't met." It wasn't true. They had met. Briefly, once at a coffee shop years ago. He had been delivering packages, then working his way through graduate school. My sister had barely looked at him. My mother had asked me later, privately, whether I couldn't do better. I didn't remind them. I didn't need to. My husband appeared beside me, his hand settling at the small of my back, the weight of it familiar and calm. "You must be my wife's family," he said. His voice was pleasant, warm even. He extended a hand to my mother first, then my sister, then him. Each handshake the same length. Each smile the same degree of welcome. They didn't know what to do with it, the lack of performance, the absence of any need to prove anything. "We should let you mingle," my mother said after a moment that had gone on too long. "Wonderful party you've done. Well," she said it like she was proud, like she had anything to do with it. I watched them move back into the crowd, my sister glancing over her shoulder once, him never looking back at all. My husband's hand was still on my back. "Okay," he asked. I nodded. And I realized with a kind of quiet surprise that I was, not because of what they had seen or what they now knew, but because standing there in a room full of people I had chosen, next to a man who had chosen me back, I had stopped needing anything from them at all. The party went on, the night went on. And when I think about it now, months later, what I remember isn't the pale shock on my mother's face or the way my sister couldn't meet my eyes. It's the moment before they saw him. The small stillness of them scanning the room, looking for someone important and not yet knowing they had already found her.